Reade, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. I really appreciate you coming out. We for this review, we saw the film Snowden. It was of particular concern for us both, and something that we were both very considerate of because of having an intelligence background. Yep. And seeing a lot of the hype.
Yes.
and the phenomena around this
yeah.
fella.
Well, also, I mean, when we first started talking about this, I thought it was really awesome that you went out there, you started doing a little bit of work, you actually put some stuff out there on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of, that made me want to go out and kind of do my homework,
Yeah.
Watched a couple of interviews and things like that. I thought it was very interesting that we both took a second to kind of do our homework and dig into a little bit of what his persona was like.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Well, let me start with this. First things first, let's talk about, so J. Gordon Levitt
Yes.
is a phenomenal actor.
Oh, man. Absolutely.
I was super impressed throughout the entire film. There was some points in the film where the dramatizations
Mm-hmm.
crossed lines for me. I assume the same for you.
Yes.
Because we know the realities.
Right.
And here they have crossed these lines that are really important,
Mm-hmm.
Because in the intelligence profession, we're all about wanting people to know information. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We have learned over years and years and years to not only target where we collect and what we collect, but to target where that goes, right?
Yes.
And who that goes to and how
Exactly.
that goes about, which I want to get into further. But so let's start just with J. Gordon Levitt.
Okay.
Man's an amazing actor, and I want to say that right now, put that out there because it was really good.
Well, I mean, if you and I even talked about it shortly after that fact, we took a look at some of the interviews that Edward Snowden had done, and a lot of the things that he said. You're kind of like, oh man, I actually remember him saying that in the interviews. I remember him saying that when he discussed this. It's very almost eerie how close he was to how he acted and how he portrayed himself and how he even carried himself. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
So
it impressed me because his portrayal of the role really catches the character and the person of this man.
Yeah.
I mean, without bias. The portrayal was without bias. I felt.
I felt that.
The film has its bias and its push.
This
it seems at times,
underlying subliminal messages. Yes.
Right.
Maybe not so subliminal.
They had to. It would be if they did not dramatize the things that they had, and they did not vilify in drama the way that they had certain persons and characters they had to put together for. If they had not done that, there is no way that you could look at this guy and go, "Here's a good guy."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're right.
You really couldn't.
Yeah.
But on that note, now a lot of guys are going to be arguing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are really applauding him as a hero.
Right.
On that note of how, let's talk about just a couple of the things that he revealed, right?
Okay.
That he reveals,
Right.
and their impact for us as a society. Let's just talk a little bit about what he is riding the roller coaster of for his heroism, what he proclaims.
Fair.
Give me. What are a couple of things you noted?
Well, one of the things that I definitely noted, and I came back and started looking a couple of things up, was the fact that the metadata, the metadata that people were collecting, and that was one of the things that he definitely kind of shotgunned out there and kind of sent out there was that hey, take a look at all of these things that are collecting and take a look, oh my goodness, individuals can go ahead and they can see through our computers and they can turn on our own microphones and blah, 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 blah. And that was something, and I don't know if you know this, but that was something that was written in Wired magazine.
Yeah.
That was something that was brought up way back then.
Yeah.
And so it was already in the limelight. It was already out there.
All of that data, all that information was revealed. Wired magazine did a huge article.
Yeah.
And they went in depth. I mean, in depth.
Wow.
Incredibly into all the stuff that Snowden's, and this is in 2012, over a year, roughly a year before Snowden releases these documents and says all this stuff, okay? So I really kind of think, when I see evidences like that, I go, okay, so Snowden is a geek too, right? He's a computer guy.
Yeah.
No, I have no doubt this cat read this article. I cannot attest as to why he did it. Now
I've got my theories. I'm going to say, go ahead.
But I have not interrogated this guy. I have not interviewed him personally. I have not interrogated him, but I have watched the interviews with him enough to recognize that there's fallacy, and there is glorification, and there is deludedness, a lot of delusion in his proclamations and his interviewing. He is riding a bandwagon of a thing that he didn't reveal, and I am willing to argue that the majority of the classified documents which he does reveal did not reveal anything new. We understand classification systems.
True.
We understand how they come about. The information, I feel, some were misconstrued. There are fallacies, blatant fallacies that are spoken in the media as though they were fact and based off of these intelligence reports. There's a host of data that has absolutely nothing to do with this, nothing whatsoever, which leads me to believe two things. One, that Ed Snowden was not aware of what he was pulling when he pulled it. He had an agenda beyond the data, the information. Okay, so there's that, and then and also on that note. There's my concern of his fabrication of data also, because it's very easy for him to have done that, and we won't be able to fully validate. The courts will be able to fully validate that.
Right.
So it is something that can be validated. They will review access to what he did to verify whether or not he had fabricated something or treasonously and traitorously revealed something.
And see, the hardest part about that is because of the sheer amount of data that he actually released.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is that, and I hope you don't mind if I interject.
No, man, please, go ahead.
The thing that I was going to bring up is that you were stating that before you're not entirely sure why he would want to fabricate this.
Yeah.
This is my 2 cents of it. My 2 cents is that the way that he continues to attempt to grandstand, the way that he attempts to go ahead and explain himself, you can see every single time that he ever gets interviewed, even up until earlier this year in May when he was interviewed at the University of Chicago. You can see this individual, for the life of me I can't remember who did the interview with him, but he was a government person within the U.S. government who used to work with multiple different administrations. The questions that he would ask were very pertinent and from my opinion, very bold and very ballsy, and I was like, wow, that's a good question, because he was asking them, why on earth, what gives you, Edward Snowden, the right to be able to go ahead and publish these documents? And then immediately, one of the first things he does is that, and he does this, and you and I will see this because of our backgrounds, but you can see where he attempts to deceive and where he attempts to kind of move, and he says, well, the question is not this. The question is not to say, what did I divulge? And I want to make this clear that I didn't actually publish anything. It wasn't me who did this, which kind of continued. And throughout this entire interview, he continues to do that move, that ebb and flow and that movement and that. And I mean, anybody else wouldn't be able to see it. Anybody, I think a couple other individuals might.
Maybe, but as you pointed out, I'm sure that people can witness it.
Yeah, but this is where my kind of theory kind of comes up, is that what I think he did is I think he got to a point in his career where he realized that he wasn't getting the credit that he deserved. He was creating all of these different programs that nobody knew that he had done it. And when the time came, he felt, well, that's not using it the way that I would have presented it, and they didn't recognize me in the person that created this program. And so I want to go out there and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stick it to the man any way that I can. And just like we had kind of discussed before, he didn't want to be the Bradley Manning. He didn't want to be the person that would shotgun this all over WikiLeaks. He wanted to make sure that, well, that was the wrong way because I knew that he ended up getting caught and getting thrown in prison. And so I got to do this the right way. in his mind. So the first person he jumped out to was the director of Citizen 4. And you can see by doing this homework and kind of looking at that, that's exactly what he wanted. He knew that there was going to be a lot of people trying to come after him, and it was going to ruin his career, and he wanted to have as much clout as he could possibly get before he threw this out to everyone.
You know, that's interesting. I'm gonna, as you're saying this, the film plays out in my head real quickly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna break it down some steps, some things here, that anybody watching the movie alone can also come to observe, just for consideration, for review.
Yeah.
Ed Snowden signs up for the United States to join the United States Army.
Yeah.
During time of war. He wants to fight and join the army. He wants to be special forces because he wants to liberate the oppressed. Okay. So he signs up. He's into his training a few months. We know it takes a couple of years to complete. Yep. He's still in his selection training, so he's not even accepted yet. He hasn't been accepted into any program. He's in the training, trying to get into. The only program he's been accepted into is selection.
Right.
Right. So during selection, he hurts himself, and he doesn't. He didn't take wise care of himself.
Yep.
Perhaps it was some weakness that was genetic. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I've witnessed too many frail people become incredibly powerful people through sheer will and determination with those programs and those training programs.
Absolutely.
I've watched too many people gain strength that they didn't know. We know men who've completed their trainings with broken legs.
Yep.
I have had a fractured tibia and completed on it. So, and it's painful and it hurts, but you do it because you know what you want to do. So we start with this. So he comes into the program and he fails out.
Right.
They let him out entirely of the army,
which kind of kills me. I kind of call shenanigans on that, just because that was back like during the surge, where everybody was in, and they really didn't let anybody out. Yeah. So
I mean, they were pulling guys out of the IRR.
Oh, like crazy
to do all sorts of jobs, reclassing them and everything. I mean, they were like, dude, you have the aptitude, you're going here now. Yeah. Well, you've got the brains, man. Guess what, dude? We need you.
We're gonna put you someplace else.
And you're like, dude, but I was a freaking framer, man, or I was a freaking, I was a plumber. I was a truck driver. well, not anymore, brother. It's
now infantry.
We need doctors. We need infantrymen. I need you to work. So that was happening, and that was the reality of the time.
It really was.
So they let him out. They said no, which is an indicator. It's not absolute, but it is an indicator that there's a possibility there that this guy was weak sauce up here.
Could have been.
Okay, he didn't have the heart for it.
Yep.
But thank God, you know what? Hey, man, at that point in time, if that's the end of it, hey, you know what, brother? Thank you for your service. Thanks for trying. Thanks for coming out, man.
Good job.
Good job. You did your best, and you broke. Hey, man, that's not your fault.
Yep.
Okay, I can give you all that. Let's go. So he carries on. He ends up. He studies a little bit, and he says, you know what? I want to do something cool.
Yep.
So I'm going to do some intelligence work. He's got family that have government background. Right. Quite possibly he was referred into some programs because there's family that said, hey, you know what, man, we'll give you a shot, dude. You know what I mean? You got a lot of heart. You want to do things. You're breaking. So, but you know what? You got a lot of heart, and you love the country, and you love us. Let's go, man. Come on. Yeah. So they give him another shot. He comes in. He gets this interview, right? He gets through the interview, gets through the process, and he ends up starting up. Now, they do some dramatization stuff in the film, but real quick, we end up at this point. So he gets a Durag. What was it for? You remember?
I believe it was he was hacking in. That's right. He was hacking into his own system.
Yeah.
He was hacking into the own system, and he was going out and essentially trying to find weaknesses in the system. And he considers that was my job. That's what you had me do. But
that's what he said.
Yeah.
And that's what he told the media. That's how he tells his story.
Yeah.
When I see that, there's all kinds of flags come up because they go, "That's not no. We have programs for that. We have that. That's already in place, brother. And there is no fucking way in hell you were doing it.
No way.
No way, bro.
Yep.
No way that was you. No way that was you. That wasn't your job. What I think he was doing is fishing.
Maybe.
He was trolling and fishing because he wanted to find. He's looking for, now I have TS clearance. Now I have access to stuff.
Yep.
I want to look at stuff.
I want to go,
And so he was looking at stuff outside of his lane, wasting our freaking money and time.
Yeah.
As contractors get paid big money, dude.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Especially back then, they were crazy amounts of money.
You don't waste freaking time. We've got mission. There's war going on. There's people freaking getting killed. There's people there's real shit happening, bro.
Yeah.
And you're out here trolling the internet.
Yeah. Because he's saying that it's his job.
Defending himself.
Yeah. And which is textbook. It's textbooks for anybody to turn around and blame the system that they're currently working, or blame the job that they're working, to say, well, I was just doing my job. I was doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah. You see, so I seen somebody posted, hey, the media that revealed these stories and got all these awards off these stories is now not helping Snowden. Can you wonder why?
Yeah.
I mean, can you wonder why? He fabricated a bunch of stuff. These guys made award-winning stories out of data. They had to formulate these stories. I mean, they had to create this stuff, man.
Yeah.
Now he's out and he's in the public, and these facts that we're talking about, these things we're talking about, where he's coming from, are beginning to become revealed. He comes officially under investigation. The whole thing's under investigation now, right?
Yeah.
So the facts are going to come out.
Yes.
Because just like he says in the film, I left a digital footprint. They're going to find me.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they're going to figure out all of it, because we while some things we eliminate stuff. There's always, for a period of time, and I won't talk more, but there's always, for a period of time, the actual everything that we do.
Right.
Always, because when shit like this happens, we need to be able to look at it. Yep. Is he actually a whistleblower? Hell no. What would a whistleblower done?
To be honest, I don't know. Tell me, what do you think?
So there are internal ways of being able to report issues, right?
Right.
There are also ways, like he went about, where we reveal stuff to the public, because every one of us, so the intelligence profession, we're Americans, okay? And that Constitution is what we've sworn to defend, right? Against all threats, foreign and domestic, okay? So anyway, so the right way to go about it is those ways where, we talk about, we bring it up in a forum. There's some forum where it gets revealed out to the public, these things. And then, guys from Wired Magazine write freaking, hot reports, and some guys come out and say, and freaking anti-government groups come out and say stuff. And a lot of those anti-government groups end up fabricating to make it even more
they try to dramatize
illustrious,
They try to dramatize it. And a lot of the times what they do is that they usually take analysts from different news agencies and things like this, and different correspondents that may have worked in the government before, and that's who they're getting to connect a lot of these points. Because in those forums, you're right, there are going to be times where they come forward with certain pieces of information, but anything that is going to be on that classified level is never going to be revealed. The reason being that they don't ever reveal that stuff, it puts everybody at risk. It puts all of these other people at risk. And they even cover it, like in the movie when he's first there, what they call the Hill and whatnot. They're talking about just like any information that could possibly be not in our hands, it's in our enemy's hands. And so they even cover it then. I mean, he knew. That's the thing that kills me, is that any one of these programs, and just like you or I, we're crying out loud. We are not as well trained as some of these other individuals that are out there. We're just not. Mm-hmm. We, at the same time, that is the number one thing that is drummed into us all of the time, is that we do not allow people to go out there and give out classified information. I mean, that leads into a lot of the stuff into a lot of the stuff that's happening in the media recently, and what happened over the past couple of months about classified leakage and everything else. Yeah. It's one of these huge things. It's one of these big issues that, dude, and they cover this in these forums, that we are not going to release this information because it's going to put people's lives in danger. And that is the one thing that kind of frustrates me the most, is that throughout this entire story, you see the de-evolution of this man and this individual who, yes, he knew exactly what he was fighting for at the very beginning, but because he allowed himself to be essentially be delusionized by the things that he wanted most, the things that he wanted to be recognized for, then he went ahead and he said, like, well, I've got a noble cause. And you see it later on in the movie where he tried to get everybody to come in and he brings people in to take a look and to see, hey, look at this, all this stuff here. And he starts bringing up all these different things. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody. This isn't like a spoiler video or anything.
Yeah.
But he starts showing people what is going on and where all this information is being pulled from. And then you see that guy that's in charge of him being like, hey, what is going on? What are you guys doing here? You're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be in the other room. You're not supposed to be close to us at all. You don't have access to this, which again shows me that what he was doing was grandstanding. What he was doing was, and that's the thing that I didn't necessarily, that's what made me mad about the film. And I guess if it makes me mad and if it brings out an emotional response, the film probably did its job, because that made me upset and it didn't make me want to glorify Edward Snowden at all. It made me think, you made a mistake. This should not have happened. And you knew everything and you were trained to not let this happen.
Yeah.
But you wanted to gratify yourself amongst your peers. Plain and simple.
Yeah, that's strong. That's I have a similar sense. But even in Argument's case, so let's look at his story where he's saying that, well, I saw these things. There are some of those things that you see, right? And I think to myself, this guy wasn't what. First and foremost, he was not what he said he was. Okay, the things that he claims to have been like this intelligence operative who so he's an IT guy that got field.
And that's
and then that whole field thing. When you look at that field thing,
oh man,
the whole story. I kind of think to myself, dude, that actually happened. But whoever it was fucking with this guy so hard, because I think that Ed Snowden was like, dude, can you introduce me to some, like, I want to do some cool stuff. I want to be out in the field. I want to do cool stuff.
Right.
And I think that some of these guys were like, this guy doesn't understand. This guy this guy has a dream of what things are really. He's got this fantasy of it. Well, so I really think they played into his fantasies. And I don't know that that's the case, but when I see that, I can't help but think to myself, this fool got played by players. Yeah. Because, dude, that ain't the way it works. The shit that kid would never, if in fact we were doing those things in the field that way, that fucking guy would never be there.
Well, the way that I like to compare it, I like to compare it to the guy that's doing supply at the talk, and then bro, you're so good. We're gonna SF wants you to come out and come roll with them on a roll outside the wire for them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and that's what I compare it to, because something like that, no way. If you go ahead and you take a dude that's been a supply guy, and I don't even care how much of a hard charger he is, there is no way that a special operations unit is going to be like, hey, why don't you go ahead and come on out? That's what I compare it to. And so I don't believe that somebody's going to be like, hey, why don't you go ahead and come on out and come and join me on this op? That was Timothy Oliphant's character, who did a phenomenal job. I thought Timothy Oliphant was really...
I like your comparison, but
go ahead.
It is possible, that supply guys go out and
fair,
but but now here's where I think you're onto something. SF group guys team guys come and say, I need you guys for or your commander comes and says, listen, you're going to be going out with this ranger troop, these rangers, man. You're going out to go do some Hooah shit. This is all you need to know. They give you your briefing. You're going to be running a gun. Go do this.
Okay.
And you go out and you do your job.
Okay.
And you go out and you then engage the enemy and you have this experience, a mesmerizing, dreamy experience here, right? It's all this like, I'm really in the shit, dude.
Yeah.
You come back and you're like, dude, I was with the freaking best motherfuckers on the planet,
right? Fighting
real bad guys in real life.
Yeah.
So Snowden here he is. He's got TS clearance, top secret clearances. He's He's doing the IT and the technical stuff for you know, at a real high level of value. I mean, and you and I both know. I mean, some of it is, I mean, most of it is really not so freaking glorious. It's just real plain, real shit. Fucking falls limp.
It really.
And you end up a little bit less than impressed in that sense, because you're looking for this James Bond hero experience. I think, and that happens to all. I mean, you know, you go through it. You got to go through it. It happens to any professional that, depending on what your trade is, but it happens to
Correct.
You. You do have to. You go through it.
You get to a point. It's not glorious. It's not all Hollywood. It's very much you go. You got a job to do. You get that job done, and that's it. I mean, it's very.
I think that note. That's where I think you're very correct on that, because again, I know a lot of our protocols and how we do things. So I look at that and I go, his ability to take the material that he got away is a lot easier than what they made it look, even. Because if you want to be a bad guy, it is easy. It's really, if you want to take if you want to listen, any of us, go work and go get a job in intelligence and go find out for yourself, right? It wasn't some great challenging thing. He did it very easily, and then he sat on this data that he did not know what he had, because the man was not an analyst, and he was not I mean, if he analyzed, I don't want to say he wasn't an analyst, but the man wasn't sitting down analyzing like intelligence events, man. You can, they reveal some stuff. The what's his name's character? Oh man, he's another great actor. Oh man, I'm feeling so shameful not knowing his name right now. He plays Spock.
Zachary Quinto.
So he said his character says, the reporter character said, there's a little reveal. He's like, I need to go. This thing is basically, he says, this is garbage. I need to go and make the story. Basically, I got to go work on this story because this is indiscernible.
Yeah.
So now you have this guy who's going to sit down with this material, who he's coming from the media's side.
Yep.
So he has these few years prior of the media talking about this issue.
Yeah.
This is an issue that we want to make an issue about, man. This is juicy.
Yeah.
Right? He's a storyteller, man. It's his job. So he's like, freaking, I've got my hands on like super classified data, dude, that's going to like really make a difference here with this story. Is going to be huge. He even kind of reveals right there just how little Snowden was actually giving.
Going into that, when everybody's in this hotel room and they're all talking about these things that they want to go out and they want to start releasing and all these problems and whatnot, in my opinion, they start to get into that groupthink. They start to get into a lot of groupthink. That's why he was so passionate. If you remember, Zachary Quinto's character was having a conversation with the woman that's in Britain, and he is just getting so mad and so frustrated. I think that's indicative to the situation where they were feeding off of Edward Snowden's ideas of how important this was.
Yeah.
And when he started digging into the data, I'm pretty sure, just like anybody else was going to dig into, it's quite, if I was to go ahead and I was to go from a layman, okay, I know how to go ahead and I know how to work with maybe engines, and then somebody introduces something from like technical type of data, talking about like electrical boards and everything else, and I'm like, I do not know what this means. I know how to read. I'm a mechanic, but heck, I don't know how to take apart a jet. Like a Tomcat. I don't know how to understand any of this crap. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And so I honestly think that's what Zachary Quinto's character came across, or some of these journalists came across. They're just like, okay, well, I know what he was telling me in the room, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take what I know, and then I'm going to blast the rest of it out there and say like, oh my gosh, look at this.
Yeah. That's what they had to do. Well, that's what. See, and this is where I my hairs stick up, and I think that's real intelligent to do, and it's real, it's real. I don't want to say evil, but it's pretty bad guy-esque when you take your little, what you already don't know much about, and you've fabricated something, and you get these people to do what you want them to do.
Right.
And then he's like, but I didn't do it.
Yeah.
That's bad guy behavior. That's bad guy behavior. Like, bad guys do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
People that have nefarious reasoning.
Malintent.
Yeah, malintent. I mean, just like politicians and a lot of other people that manipulate.
Yeah.
They rally cause behind them, and they can be really not good guys when they do it.
Yeah.
And to me, the shame in that is this: that okay, our young people are good.
Yeah.
Okay? They're young still, so they're really good. I mean, the younger you get, the more innocent and good you are, because your potential is limitless.
Yeah. But at the same time, they're very impressionable.
And this is fact, because you're still young, and that impressionability that remains with us.
Yeah.
And they're ready to get behind the good cause. Mm-hmm. Always ready to get behind the good cause and get excited about doing the right thing.
Right.
They want to beat the bad guy, and the bigger the bad guy, the better. And if the bad guy's right close to home, that's even better still,
Right.
This has happened, and it happens periodically. And there's a group of supportive people that get behind this kind of action, this kind of like traitorous acts, because they try to make heroes out of these people, because they're fighting the big bad government. But you and I both know, at least I know for certain. I'll let you test for yourself. I apologize for speaking for you.
No, you're good.
I've done it a few times, but in government, working in government, I worked with some of the most caring, considerate, selfless human beings I've ever met in my entire life. And there are men and women in leadership, and now nobody's perfect, but we are always perfecting.
Right.
And that's why these people who work in these service positions, so many of them, these guys care, man. They really care a lot, and they love this country with all of their heart, might, mind, and strength, man. Like they would love their God, man. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And that's the kind of love that we have for our Constitution and our people and our people's safety and their freedom and everything that makes them American.
Yep.
When we start making concessions to this guy's heroism for popularity's sake, that concerns me, because we're smarter than that, and our youth need to be more critical of this kind of behavior.
Yep.
Again, some simple reviews on the internet, which now actually are more challenging to discover. You have to actually look up the key. You have to have more specific key phrasing in order to avoid getting jumped with a bunch of like pro Snowden stuff. But if you want to just look up the realities, like you and I have done, you want to just go look up, well, what was it like, the history building up to this Snowden event? What was actually already out in the media? Where could Snowden have developed some of this stuff from? Because you and I both recognize some of the things that he's talking about, but he's not talking about it the way it actually is. So it's kind of like, what is this actually? How did he end up with this perception? And this leads you to discover news articles on the data centers and local paper stuff, which is really challenging to get your hands on, the local paper stuff.
Yep.
But it's out there, and you got to dig and you got to look.
Yeah.
But he's played some bad game. Yeah. And made bad choices and got other people to make bad choices with him.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that I worry about as well, is that and I think of the exact same thing, that there are going to be young people who see this movie who believe that this is the way that bad things need to be corrected, that they have to go out there and they have to, because you don't realize what is going on. You don't know all of the levels or the pieces of the puzzle. You can't see the big picture. Yeah. And at his level, even where he was, and that's one of the reasons why, and that's one of the reasons why when we went out and we got deployed, there was times where I sat back and I ran the gun because I didn't need to know what was going on.
Yep.
There were times where I sat back and I stayed at the fob because I didn't need to know what's going on. Yeah. Because I have my own mission, my own reason for doing this. None of us can go out there and be James Bond all the time. Yeah. None of us can, and it's just not the way that things work.
Right.
Because of one thing, is that you are only one person. You cannot do everything, and you cannot know what's going on, and you cannot have all the answers, because then it becomes subjective and it becomes biased.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what he allowed himself to be.
Yeah.
Is he allowed himself to become subjective and biased. And now, if individuals want to go out there and they want to make a big change, and that's the thing that made me sad, is that they glorified that. They made it be like, that is, one person can make a difference. The fact of the matter is that one person should attempt to go out there and get his peers to have a objective look at what he's attempting to do, and then make that difference. Because I can tell you right now that if any one of those individuals, I believe that they dramatized it, but I believe that there are many of the NSA individuals, people working at the CIA, people in all levels of government who have come forward and said, no, that shouldn't have happened, because there are checks and balances and ways to bring that forward as well.
I think that the filmmakers all around, the writers and the producer, everybody all around, the actors, all did a real good job of portraying enough reality that you can see, if you put yourself in this guy's shoes, right? That he observed things the way he did. He fabricated an idea of what that was. He sees things the way he sees things. The film does a great job of portraying things from that perspective.
Yeah.
Now and it's a shame that that's how easy that is to be a bad guy. That all you have to do is become a little deluded, live in your own freaking world, and think yourself somebody you're not.
Yeah.
You lie to yourself about anything, ever. If you tell yourself, I'm this thing, and you're not that thing, and you go around parading around in your life as though you're this thing, and you've got other people's lives in your hands, you're a dangerous person. You now violate those lives that are in your hands, and you're a bad guy. I don't care. You're not a good guy, and you got to repent, man. And it's a real shame where he's coming from, because I do not know how. And there is an accountability. We can account how many people died directly as a result of his treacherous act.
Well, you're starting to see that nowadays, where a lot of and this was something that was recently in, I can't remember I believe it was inside Business Insider and also within the New York Times, where they referred to individual operations that have been taking place. And then they said, hey, look, we were trying to go out and trying to achieve certain things, but we couldn't, this operation failed because of this information that had already gotten out into these people's hands.
Yeah. And
that's where you see a direct correlation and they even said it was because of the information that was put out by Edward Snowden.
Yeah.
Which again, it kind of makes me sad, in that there's only going to be, I really hope that it's not the case, but I feel as if an individual like that should have realized, and this is where a lot of his mentorship comes from, a lot of the other people kind of thinking that this man just knows what he is and knows what he does, and we're going to go ahead and make him, he's the subject matter expert, we're going to leave him alone. And that was part of the problem.
Yeah.
Is that if that's actually what did happen, as far as the dramatization was concerned, because that's how they put it in the movie.
If in fact that's the way it did happen, I think in a sense the compartmentalization and possibly the lack of, like you say, mentorship, discussion, take aside, if we don't look at him like he's just a bad guy or something, but he's just look at things from the perspective of this person, right?
Yeah.
Let's keep him in an honest, objective interest. I think that this is how he ended up deluded.
Yeah.
And it's real possible that's how he ended up deluded. On the long and short of it, my thoughts on the film are that the film was pretty well put together and gave a good enough of a story for an objective view to be obtained. Mm-hmm. Assuming you are an objective person.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there was a little bit of subjectivity, obviously, towards the end.
Sure.
But objective, definitely, kind of leading up towards and telling the story of this man. I can definitely see where there is a lot of objectivity, where Oliver Stone were kind of, but yet at the very end, that's when he kind of like did this culminating bit where I was kind of, where you and I both had very similar views towards the end, where it was just like, no.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
I felt real bad. I really felt bad for the media people. But I think that good lessons are going to be learned out of this too for the people in the media because, dude, you know, you're talking about national security and the life. Though you have taken in the excitement of the moment, you know. Let me tell you, don't ever get sold out. We don't have a bunch of hit squads looking to come and get you. I mean, you know, you see, even I think President Obama's reaction to him at the one point was fantastic, where he's like, I'm not gonna go chasing down a freaking hacker.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? The dude put how many lives? I mean, look at some. I mean, I'm gonna refer to some of the ISIS videos, man. I don't like watching those, but I know they're there. But knowing that these bad guys now are killing these good guys because of a guy that was on my side, and my side is the side of freedom and liberty and you know, and the very cause that he professed to desire to be a special forces soldier.
Yeah, free the oppressed.
He wanted de oppressa liber. He wanted that, and in the end, he gave the exact opposite through his treachery. Yeah, and that's a real shame.
Yeah, it does. That sucks. That somebody wants to go out there and do that.
Any closing thoughts, man?
No, as of right now, I mean, I think we kind of beat the dead horse pretty well.
Yeah,
I think we did.
Well, for our viewers, I recommend if you have not given a good and hearty investigation into the data that he supposedly reveals versus what we already had access to in houses where they are appropriately represented. But I leave that for you, you know, like he says with his film, let you choose for yourself, right?
Yep.
Well, I hope that you do a thorough investigation before you choose. Do not choose by your emotions, because your adversary is out there trying to run you by them. Thanks for being on the show, man. What a great episode.
Glad to be here.
Right on.
Thanks so much.
Right on, man. Well, we are glad you enjoyed this review of Snowden with Das Hooah. We invite you to enjoy our bi-weekly show, Conversations. And if you love the content, please visit our Patreon page, and we'll see you next time.